Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. 9:24 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. And we are now going to be talking with Professor Faizal Bux. He is director at the Institute for Water and Wastewater Technology based at the Durban University of Technology. Additional affiliations is DSI, NRF, South African Research Chair in Wastewater Treatment. The right person to be talking to us about the dire situation that seems to be unfolding in KZN. And I seem to remember that not too long ago, I had a chat with a good professor about this very same situation. So where are we at now? Is the situation worsening? Is it being contained? How do people move forward? Is it safe to drink water in KZN, Durban in particular? What exactly is the situation? Assalamu alaikum to you, Professor Faizal Bux. Nice to have you on the show this morning.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for the opportunity.
Let's see. Carry on.
Yeah, just to set the theme for today's talk is today's World Water Day, and the theme for the World Water Day is accelerating change to solve the water and sanitation crisis. And this is because it affects all of us. We all need to take action. It means you and your family, your school, your community. We all can make a difference by changing the way we use, consume, and manage water in our lives.
Absolutely. It's something we take for granted, don't we? I sometimes see how water is being wasted in a simple act of wudu, and it breaks my heart because I know it is such a scarce resource. And as you would know, as would most people in your profession, that we've been told time and time again that future world wars will be fought over water, nothing else but for taking control of water, major waterways, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's at current rate, if we raise this pressure threefold, there's expectation that 1.1 billion people globally will lack safely managed drinking water. 2.8 billion people will lack safely managed sanitation. And 1.9 billion people will lack basic hand hygiene. These are frightening statistics, clearly. And, it's time that we address this matter, not just expecting the government to do its bit, but we as consumers need to address this, with behavioral changes.
I can imagine these type of problems besetting our grandparents and earlier generations. But goodness me, we are in the 21st century. We have technology at hand. It is amazing where we're at as far as scientific and technological advancements are concerned. And yet we sit in a situation like this, a dire situation of the sewer networks being on the verge of collapse, municipalities not having money for maintenance. And just before I got you online, we spoke to the local community activists here in Robertsham, where our studios are based. They've not had water for 13 days in a row, and they've not been given any explanation as to why that, the situation is such. It seems as if the different areas are having different challenges. Why do we find ourselves in the situation? You indicated that it's not only on government, it depends on all of us. But clearly, if government is not, or if local municipalities are not putting the money where needed most, like repairing of aging infrastructure, etc., we are going to be seeing these problems on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that statement. It's so unfortunate that, if you look at, South Africa is a water-starved country, right? Our global average rainfall is around 490 millimeters. Sorry, our South African average rainfall is about 490 millimeters, but global average rainfall is around 850 millimeters. So the point is we have enough water. If you look at South Africa as we stand now, KZN, our dams are more than 100% full. But there are areas within the province that does not have clean drinking water. So it's a very unfortunate situation, and it clearly comes down to poor maintenance of infrastructure. That's one of the key areas. I know we had a flood here in KZN, but it's gone a year now, and still there are areas that do not have clean drinking water, purely because the infrastructure, the network, the distribution networks have not been adequately maintained. But the point I want to bring out as well is we have done analysis of the Durban tap water over the last few months. What I can say with a great degree of confidence is, because it's based on empirical data, we've tested tap water, and there was about 18 samples we've taken across the Durban region, both south, north, and west, and the water, quality of the water meets your South African national standards. So the point here is you can drink Durban tap water. Unfortunately, there are certain areas you may get breakage of pipes within the distribution network, and that's where the supply of water becomes a problem. But there are many other cities as well where there has not been adequate maintenance of the distribution network, those pipes. Some of those pipes are more than 50, 60 years old, those pipes that supply water to our households. And clearly there should have been plans in place to replace those old asbestos pipes. So it's a cause of serious concern. It's the lack of adequate planning on the part of local government. And, you know, there's no excuse. And also the rate of urbanization. More and more people are now moving to cities. And there should be plans in place to ensure that the supply of water meets the demand of people moving into cities.
So there are multiple factors at play here. We can't just kind of point a finger at one particular situation. We also understand that eThekwini's wastewater treatment plants are in a dire state. There's issues around the sludge processing at the wastewater treatment plants. For example, this past year, no sludge was processed at all last year. Is that correct? Is that a true statement? And for people listening into us this morning, can you expand on what exactly this sludge and wastewater treatment situation is all about? Having said that, the tap water in the Greater Durban area is safe for drinking. And let me also just, before I hand over to you, Professor, do you drink the tap water? I know that's a cheeky question, but do you drink the water?
Absolutely. If I had no faith in Durban tap water, I would not drink it. I can afford to buy bottled water. But the poor men out there that cannot afford to drink bottled water, they have a problem. I personally do drink Durban tap water because I know I am aware of the quality of the tap water based on scientific protocols. Yes.
Wonderful. You've just reassured hundreds of thousands of people in that part of the country that it is safe to go ahead and drink the water. Let's get to the wastewater treatment and the sludge.
Yeah, that is a major problem at this stage. We have 27 wastewater treatment plants in the Greater Durban area. And, you know, unfortunately, only 3 of those plants have been licensed. Many of those plants are not performing optimally, in the sense that when you flush your toilet, the waste goes through the wastewater treatment plant. Depending where you're located, it can go through pump stations, and the pump station pumps your waste, your feces, directly to the wastewater treatment plant. So those plants are highly mechanized. They need to be maintained, you know, and many of these plants, unfortunately, have not adequately been maintained. And the waste that's coming into the plant is basically the waste that comes out at the end and gets into rivers. So the two basic or the major problems in the eThekwini region currently is our pump stations. Some of them are not functioning optimally. There could be various reasons for that. It could be vandalism, it could be load shedding, etc. And when your pump station does not perform optimally, your waste then gets into rivers, because many of the pump stations are located across rivers. And secondly, if your wastewater treatment plant does not perform this function, right, then that means your poorly treated wastewater now is going to get into your rivers, because your wastewater plants discharge the final effluent into the rivers. So if you look at the Umgeni River, It's sitting with quite a few pump stations along the Angeni River. We have quite a few wastewater treatment plants that also discharge. The Angeni River has clearly had major problems in the recent months, where we've tested the water quality in Angeni, and the wastewater is very substandard. It's got a high E. coli count on all the times we've tested. The beaches that are along the Angeni have been impacted. So if you look at the beaches along the Angeni, on the right-hand side, we have Laguna Beach. On the left, we have Virginia, Glen Ashley, close to Mhlanga as well. And those beaches have had very high E. coli counts. But if you're going further south, like Eddington and North Beach, those beaches are still okay. So the point to make here is, yes, Durban has a serious crisis with regards to our wastewater treatment facilities. They should have been maintained. There should have been plans in place for increasing the number of people moving into cities. But unfortunately, that has not taken place.
Okay, two, three very short, sharp questions, short, sharp answers, if you don't mind, because I do have my next guest standing by. It is World Water Day. Question number one, what ought we as homeowners, home users need to focus on to truly try and, not waste this very precious resource? And then just back to the treatment plants and the sludge and the feces, you are saying that if the treatment plants cannot cope, the sludge and the feces is going into the rivers. If it was operating optimally, if the plants were operating optimally, how was the sludge separated from the water, and how is the water then treated for reuse again as drinking water, or what?
Yeah, at this stage, there are projects currently in place, both by the Angeni Water Board and its municipality, to look at wastewater reuse. However, those are still projects. They have not gone into full-scale operation. If you ask me, can we drink wastewater? I would say there are processes that will ensure that wastewater goes through very rigid treatment processes so that it meets your South African national standards for potable water quality. It stands 241, right? Currently, when you get your feces bring into a wastewater treatment plant, your sewage, you get separation of your solids and your liquids. So the portion that is being treated is your liquid portion to remove your pathogens, your bad bacteria, the disease-causing bacteria, your nutrients, etc. And you get your final effluent that comes out at the end of the wastewater treatment plant, and you get a solid component as well. And that solid component is basically is trucked away into another facility. So you're not getting sewage or sludge coming out at the end of your wastewater treatment plant.
What happens to the solids? Is it incinerated? Sorry for the interruption, Professor. What happens to the sewage solids? You said it gets trucked away. Does it get incinerated? Where does it eventually end up in? Definitely, hopefully not in the seas and the rivers.
No. Unfortunately, at this stage, we have tons and tons and tons of sludge that the cities do not know what to do with it. I mean, there are full projects in place to see whether we can use it for fertilizer, etc. But it has to meet very strict Department of Water and Sanitation guidelines. So that's not common practice at this stage. But just to answer your question, the solid does not get into your rivers, or should not get into your rivers.
Very quickly, Professor, what ought we be focusing on from today and going forward regarding World Water Day?
Conservation. Make sure we do not waste our precious resource. If you have it today, you may not have it tomorrow. So there are behavioral changes for me and you and all of us together. We can conserve this very precious resource. Do not waste it in your households.
Inshallah. Thank you so very much for talking with us, Professor Faizal Bux, Director at IWWT based at DUT, talking to us about the quality of water in South Africa and particularly KZN. Thank you indeed for your insights, and Ramadan Mubarak to you and your loved ones, inshallah.
Thank you very much to you as well and the listeners. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah. Wa alaikum salam. 9:38. News and views right here on Salam Media. Please stand by. We are now going to be joined by Irfan Ahmed. He's from the Al Imdad Foundation. He's here to report back on the effects of Cyclone Freddy in Malawi and neighboring areas.